we stand together, we'll never fall.
Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. This is episode number 366 of a show that provides insight and tools to build the life and homestead of your dreams. Now, for those of you who are new to the show or are catching up, this show is rotating through 7 topics, and these 7 topics represent key areas in our life that we need to work on equally in order to achieve a balanced life or a life of all-around growth. And those topics are financial, physical, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and career. Rather, those 7 areas of life are those key areas that we want to work on to achieve balance. And accordingly, the show is going to cover topics in each of those areas. Now, in addition to those topics, we're also going to have episodes related to life here on the homestead from time to time, and we'll likely refer back to the Old Farmer's Almanac as well, because those episodes seem to be a hit with you guys. And they're a hit with me as well, because homesteading is a part of my life. No longer am I aspiring to be one. I am one, and I think that that's an important distinction to make when we work through our goals and talk about goals, which we're going to do here in a little bit, which we're going to do just about every episode as we have done. But it's important to think about reaching the point where you talk about what you're aspiring to be and talking about that which you are. Anyways, just think about that. So while we'll have a good foundation from the 7 topics previously mentioned, there's still going to be a good bit of homestead topics from me, the novice homesteader and entrepreneur. So here's a breakdown of where we're at with the current rotation of these 7 topics. Now, last Tuesday we covered a financial topic with a show titled Getting Credit Cards Under Control. Last Wednesday we covered the June newsletter from York Meadow Farm, which was a homestead show. Last Thursday we covered a physical topic with a show titled Intermittent Fasting 101. And last Friday we closed out the week with a personal development topic with a show appropriately titled Personal Development. Now, yesterday's show was a family show to kick off this week titled Inflation and Your Family. And that brings us to today, where we cover a topic on spirituality. Now, I've done a lot of episodes lately on spirituality, a lot of Sunday spirituality talks as I drive home from church, and a lot of thought shares as I kind of process my own spiritual journey. And because of that, I wanted to take the dialogue in a different direction. So I reached out to the Telegram group today and asked for everyone's thoughts on why spirituality is important in life. So here is what I wrote. And this was a post actually in response to Sean saying, hey, good episodes lately. So Sean, thanks for the pat on the back. I appreciate the comments. And I wrote that today was going to be a short episode, though it's probably not going to be a short episode because I'm really enjoying doing shows in this way lately, putting a little bit more thought, effort, and energy into them. It's more rewarding. And that's what I said, thank you. The shows have been rewarding. Today is going to be a shorty, though. Lots of spiritual talk lately. So just going to wax on the importance of inclusion and spirituality in one's life. And that I was open to everyone else's thoughts on why spirituality is important in life. Audience feedback is always welcome. All right. Now, I know that some of you guys aren't a big fan of this topic. And what's awesome about the Telegram group is that we've got friends out there like Wayne and other people who actually have the balls to come out and say exactly that. Now, Wayne was the first one to comment on my post, and the subsequent dialogue was so awesome that I'm simply going to share it here with you. And this dialogue quickly sprouted and consisted of 5 different people. That's Wayne Bruley, Sean Yunt, who bravely jumped into the dialogue before coffee, Brian Norton from Food Forest Farms Enterprises, Brian Alexevic, who we'll just call Brian from the Lots Project because keeping 2 Brians separate in the dialogue is going to be a little difficult, and myself. So Wayne kicked off the conversation with a comment that read, "I'm not exactly a fan of the topic, but I think the Bible is a good book full of great lessons and great rules to live by. Also, it takes far more faith to believe in evolution than it does creation." And then I wrote, "Why not have faith in both and?" And Wayne responded by saying that they're fundamentally opposed ideas. You can't have honest faith in both. You can't believe something exploded from nothing and humans eventually evolved from bacteria and that it was all created. Not outside of a thought experiment anyway. And Sean responded to that by saying, "Beyond the scope of this channel, probably, but an infinitely powerful creator could literally do anything, even things beyond our comprehension." Wayne writes, "Yes, for sure. But that would extend beyond the teachings of any established religion, wouldn't it?" And this is where Sean writes, "Okay, I'll bite, even before coffee. Right, so God is whatever he is, and us puny humans don't stand a chance of understanding him. That's where scripture and religion come in. It's to learn what God is like and how we should interact with him. We will not agree on those implementation details. Even among, quote, Christian churches, there's diverging ideas about it. Quote, spiritual journey, close quote, for me could more specifically mean, quote, learning about God, close quote. What does he want for me? How should I respond to events in my life I don't feel are fair? The list goes on. This is my opinion here, but a modern problem I see. Our people are building a religion or finding one that simply affirms whatever worldview they have decided is correct. That's not fulfilling, nor does it force one on a path toward divine enlightenment." Wayne writes, "Truth." Brian Norton jumped in reply to Wayne's earlier comment about contradicting ideas, and wrote that totally can if you see the creator as an architect or believe in co-creation. And this is when Brian from the Lots Project popped in and said, just like that, the AI strikes again. This popped up after reading the last discussion, and it was a photo of 2 gentlemen talking. And the one facing the other man says, "Do you believe in God?" And the man says, "Yes." And the other man says, "And unicorns?" The man says, "No." The other man says, "Why?" The man says, "Because I never saw one." And the photo zooms in on the man who's asking the questions, just looking at him. God, unicorns. What's the difference? We can't prove either exist. And there was some additional dialogue that I won't go into because it wasn't really related to the spiritual discussion. But I thought that photo was hilarious and I wanted to include it in the dialogue here. And as a matter of fact, I actually made it the photo in the show episode itself. Now, I chimed in at this point and said, in response to Wayne's comment about the wait, let me read this again. Wayne wrote, "They're fundamentally opposed ideas. You can't have honest faith in both. You can't believe something exploded from nothing and humans eventually evolved from bacteria and that it was all created. Not outside of a thought experiment anyway." My response to that reads as follows. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree, as I don't necessarily think evolution and creation are diametrically opposed to one another. Perhaps I'll give my take on the Bible today for the spirituality talk instead of the importance in one's life. And that's about it, guys. That was a brief snapshot of just some of the dialogue from the group. Now, in the last comment, I shared how I might give my take on the Bible instead. But again, why not both and? Now, I think that the spiritual aspect of life is important, and I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. But before I do that, let me go ahead and just break down my take on the Bible before I kind of start to wrap up the episode with why I think spirituality is important and how I think that factors into the balanced life that I believe we all should be seeking as humans here on this earth, regardless of our stance on religion, God, the Creator, and what have you. All right, so here is what I think about the Bible. I think the Bible is a compilation of stories. These stories are written by different people. These stories are written by different people in different geographic locations. Moreover, these stories are written in different eras, like different periods of time. And this compilation of stories were written in different languages oftentimes by different people in different cultures, okay? So I understand this, and it's important that other people understand this too, especially those who quote scripture so frequently and oftentimes out of context. Now, as far as the Bible's concerned, I also understand there are many similarities with other creation stories and myths from other cultures and eras throughout time and history. That's about it. Like, that's my take on the Bible. That's how I understand the Bible. Now, here's how I feel about the Bible. This is what I believe about the Bible. I believe the Old Testament is the written creation story of modern Western culture and contains prophecies of what's to come. I believe the New Testament is documentation of stories of what the prophets spoke of. What the prophets largely spoke of is the Son of God. I believe both the Old and the New Testament speak of what Christians refer to as the Holy Spirit. Okay? And after struggling with trying to figure out how to approach the Bible over the years, because it's tough. It's not a book that you can really pick up and read from cover to cover. It's got a table of contents and an index like other books, but you know, it's difficult, and not to mention all of the translations, right? Now, I'm very familiar with translations and everything else. I was reading translations of the Tao Te Ching over 20 years ago, trying to find a episode, or not an episode, you know, I'm going to jot that down real quick so I can include that in the show notes. Thomas Cleary. All right, so years ago, it was Thomas Cleary who wrote a book called The Essential Tao, An Initiation to the Heart of Taoism through the Authentic Tao Te Ching and the Inner Teachings of Chuang Tzu. Thomas Cleary has a translation that is, as the kids say, pretty dope. And in the church that I grew up in, it was very difficult to read. Whoopsies, sorry about that, guys. It was very difficult to read the Bible because it was the King James Version, and sorry guys, that air horn just made me lose my train of thought here for a moment. Anyways, yeah, the King James Version of the Bible was just a difficult version to read. But I digress. So, as I continued on with this spiritual journey of mine, I ended up going back to the Bible and reading parts of it, especially the Psalms. But after struggling and learning how to approach it over the years, I grew to appreciate it much more after I read about a Bible study that was being hosted by Dr. Bill Creasy. And this was right next door to where I was living in North County, San Diego at the time. I believe it was held at a church in Carlsbad. I could be mistaken. I was living in San Marcos. But what I found interesting about this particular course, and Bill Creasy in particular, was that Bill Creasy was a retired English professor from UCLA, and for many, many years he taught a year-long 12-unit undergraduate course titled The English Bible as Literature. And this course became one of the most popular and highly rated courses at UCLA, placing Dr. Creasy among the top 2% of UCLA's teaching faculty for over 2 decades. This was no joke. Bill Creasy taught the Bible as literature. He has gone through this with a fine-tooth comb, and I was lucky enough to study with him personally for several months before, or I guess while preparing to execute on the final steps of the exit strategy 10 years ago that ultimately led me back here to Ohio. Okay, so the beautiful thing about studying the Bible with Bill Creasy is that it taught me, very simply, that the Bible is indeed a compilation of stories written by different people in different geographic locations in different eras of time, in different languages, and people of different cultures. So when we read this and then study it in conjunction with maps and timelines and really look at it from an analytical perspective in order to gain context of what the stories are telling us, then we get an increased perspective on the stories and the book itself. So, much of my understanding of the Bible comes from the perspectives gained from studying it through the lens and perspective of Dr. Bill Creasy and having discussions with it or about the Bible with other people. Like, for example, before I joined the church that I'm currently a member of, I made sure to have this discussion with the pastor to really understand where he is coming from with his understanding of the Bible. Because, if I can't really get down with it, or if the pastor believes something different than that, or he has a different understanding of what our objectives are as Christians, right? Then I'm not really sure I want to participate in that church. And, as far as participation in a church goes, there's going to be more dialogue on this later, but this isn't really about church participation. This is about spirituality, okay? And I'm just saying that it's important to understand who we are engaging in and with when it comes to our own personal spiritual journey. I'm no guru. I'm a simple man sharing my experiences with you. Now, in addition to what I believe about the Bible, I believe that spirituality in life is one aspect in life that is sacrificed the most, either in addition to or right on par with the physical aspect of our lives. Garbage in, garbage out, right? We get out what we put in. And this idea is partially why I've chosen to steer the podcast in this direction. I think that it's important to discuss these often overlooked and forgotten aspects in life. And, again, let's remember these 7 key areas that we're going to focus on moving forward. Financial, physical, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and career. All right, the objective of the show is to provide insight and tools to build the life and homestead of our dreams. Now, whether you're a homesteader or not, we're working to get our life in order. We're working to find our purpose in life. We're working to find our calling. This process of going through these key areas and setting goals in these 7 different aspects of life is what all-around growth is about. So, I've come to believe that in order for our purpose or our calling to be fulfilled, we must set goals. And moreover, we must have a deliberate approach to our goals and be consistent with our actions, because success is never about just reaching career or financial goals. We have to set goals in multiple areas of our life to find success in each of the areas outlined above. Now, so far, we've had dedicated shows on financial, physical, personal development, and family. Today we touched on the spiritual, and tomorrow we're going to talk about a social topic. All right, there have been topics in the past, shows in the past rather, where we've covered different social aspects of life, and right now I'm kind of feeling like we're going to talk about social media versus real life and communities. But for those of you who are active audience members and listen to every episode when it's dropped, first of all, thank you. And second of all, I'm open to suggestions on what you think might be good content for tomorrow's social show. And really, you know where to go for the best opportunity to engage the active community. That's Telegram. Just go to your internet browser, t.me/allaroundgrowth. Or if you're on Telegram, search for All Around Growth in the groups. You'll find us in the show notes. Everything is in the show notes, including links to both Brian's projects. And in the show notes as well, you will find links to social media. Again, lacking on the social media. I'm slacking on the social media, rather. And it is what it is. Got stuff on MeWe and Twitter and Float, but haven't been posting much there, haven't been really active on anything. It's easy to share from Buzzsprout, the podcast host, to Facebook and Twitter, so I try to do that. Even I've been slacking on that. Again, where I am active personally the most is Telegram. Where the community seems to be active the most is also on Telegram, t.me/allaroundgrowth. Links to all episodes that I discussed here today or in the past. Just follow the link to all episodes. If you get down with what you hear and you like what you hear, I would really encourage you to leave a rating and review in the podcast app, the Apple Podcast app specifically, because at this point in time, I don't check the stats regularly, but I look at where the listens come from, and most of the listens are generated through the Apple Podcast app. Now, we're also available on Spotify and Google Podcasts and all sorts of podcast players that push that feed to these different apps. But if you go into the Apple Podcast app, if you're an Apple user, there's a link in the show notes, a little 1-minute video that shows you how to easily do that, because it's not as easy as it used to be. This really does help and affect the algorithm, and as of June 2022, it still matters. And so while the podcast game is changing, I'd encourage you to leave a rating and review there to help us, and also share the episodes on your social media platform of choice, because that helps too. This show is a direct result of what you are doing to help promote it and grow it, and encourage others to come join us and grow their lives as well, because what we're doing is co-creating life. We're changing our life. You're changing your life. Let's find others to do it with us and invite them to be a part of the podcast audience, and also the group on Telegram, t.me/allaroundgrowth. So please spread the word if you like what you hear. And if you don't, well, you're probably not listening to this anyways, at least at this point in the show. So with that, guys, that's it for today. I look forward to checking in with you tomorrow with episode number 367 on a social topic. Check in t.me/allaroundgrowth if you want to contribute your ideas and opinions on that show. And until then, this is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.
The needs are many and answers a few. People turn away, and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love, and truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. Whoa, whoa. I'm an odd fellow. If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call. You know the times are wasting every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe